We're thrilled to have Jeremy with us today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeremy Bevan, and I'm the founder, the director of PurposeRocks.
First of all, tell us about your company and what does PurposeRocks do?
I decided to start my own company actually at the start of this year, but I really wanted to focus on one-to-one individual team coaching, but also combined with marketing consulting from the many years of experience I've had in doing marketing. And I think the biggest motivation for me was really based on what brought me personally the most energy and fulfillment in my life and in the work that I do, actually. So fundamentally, it is about teams, it's about people, and crucially, and hence the name of the company, working with purpose. So probably what I love the most is this wonderful connection that I've actually seen as I've really started to establish this in what is needed for coaching on the one hand, but also what's needed for marketing.
So what is your role right now in the company and what are your primary marketing objectives?
So I'm sole consultant in my company right now. I work with other consultants and coaches that will partner with me in certain types of projects. But my role is obviously to provide the services that I focused on. So that is a combination of coaching services and marketing consulting services. It sounds like there are two separate things, but what I've found is that there is this lovely connection between the two. So let me talk about coaching a little bit first, because one of the biggest skills in coaching actually is an ability to listen. And it sounds obvious, but it's not just listening to what a person or a team is saying, but actually to sense and feel what's underneath, what's behind, what's not being said, what emotion is there, and what motivation is underneath. And really, it's even more than that. And I think that's where there is a big connection with marketing, because no matter what we do in marketing, it's about creating emotional connection, an empathetic connection. And yes, in marketing, we know we need to convey and communicate on information, on facts, our products, our services, our solutions. So it's not to disregard that logic and rational part, but actually if as marketeers we fail to connect and communicate at the emotional level, there's actually very little there. And that's the power of stories in marketing.
Now let's talk a bit about marketing and events. What type of new event opportunities do you think there are for marketers today?
I've led a lot of regional and global events through the teams I've worked with throughout my career, probably thousands of events over the years, quite honestly. And naturally, a big part of my strategic focus on events was always about how you can integrate the event experience into the totality of the customer experience. In other words, how events should be an important part of the human touch points on the total customer life cycle. And for me, standalone events that didn't really integrate or think about that have always been less interesting to me. So I think when the pandemic hit, like everyone else, we've all experienced this massive switch to digital only. And while the pandemic is not something that anyone would have wanted, it's certainly accelerated all of our learning about what is great and what is not great about doing them digitally all the time. So I think we all know that physically events need to come back and to reestablish some of that missing human connection that we've not been able to do by doing this in a solely digital way. And I know most of us are now talking about doing this in a more hybrid way, merging digital and physical events together, which frankly, I think we were doing and thinking about before the pandemic, but it's really accelerated now. So one thing I would say is I think that all of our experience now points to something that we knew all along, which is that we need to be looking at new and engaging ways of inspiring people. And quite honestly, I hope we don't go back to the days of packing people in to listen to long, boring presentations by an uninspiring speaker. We need to be thinking about events that are truly two-way interactive experiences. Even if you do need to convey a lot of information through some kind of long keynote, how do you bite-size it? How do you delight the audience along the way? How do you bring in emotion and experiences that can really engage them? I think there's so much opportunity to really think outside of the box here, and event teams of the future are going to need to be thinking that way.
What's one piece of career advice that you've received that's been particularly valuable to you as a marketing leader?
It probably is my favorite piece of advice. What I think was a pivotal point in my career when I was actually making a decision on whether or not to leave the company I was in and to start as a CMO at another much smaller company. And my boss at the time asked me a very simple question, which was, what are you doing most in this decision? Are you running away from what you're doing because you're weary and bored of it? Or are you running towards the role you've been offered? You know, where's the balance here? Are you more being pushed out or are you more being pulled towards? And I do think that in that moment, something kind of crystallized for me. And I realized that actually I just needed a change of perspective. And when I was looking at things the other way around, I realized that I just needed actually a simple change in my own personal way of thinking about my role, the way I was doing my role, and actually the impact I could have. And I realized there was a lot more impact and room in the role I had than changing.
So I think that brings us to a close. Thank you so much for joining us, Jeremy. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and I hope we connect again sometime soon.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.